like to be on Top of the Pops
It's
the first
great.
time then?
Well, Top of the Pops was amazing. Everyone will tell you how excited our generation, how exciting it is to walk in there. Bit disappointing though. There is that because you see it on the telly, and there's so many people there, like 3 stages full of people, and it's great. Must be massive. You get there, there are 3 stages, but they're very tiny and very close, and they stop filming, and then they move all the audience over to the next one. So be careful.
So
you can see the same audience; they're just moving around a little bit.
I was actually in the audience 11 times in Top of the Pops, so I went from stage to stage.
you know the score. Yeah, it's great though, isn't it?
And straight in at number 10, the highest new entry this week, it's Spandau Ballet. Here's True.
Going back to Top of the Pops days, Carol, what was it like to be on Top of the Pops for the first time? And what was it like backstage? Was there sort of rivalry between the different groups, or did you all sort of mingle?
No, we didn't really mingle. Everybody had their own. It was at Shepherd's Bush White City, which is a massive building, and it's circular, and there are all these long corridors, and all the dressing room doors are very, very thick and heavy, so you couldn't even hear the overspill of other conversations. It was kind of very isolated, and runners would come and get you and take you straight to the stage. People weren't milling around, and you weren't allowed to, because on the studio floor then the cameras were like cranes with the base like the size of a Dalek, 2 Daleks stuck together, and you were very carefully directed by floor managers to keep out of the way. You could actually get hurt. There was some rivalry. Absolutely, there was some rivalry, and I know it because I felt it. And also by contrast now, when most of us meet up at the 80s festivals now, it's so much friendlier because nobody's jostling for a place in the charts and concerned about you and if you're ahead of them. And
it must be lovely actually now.
Yeah, it is. It's very nice to have a glass of wine and chat backstage. Well, you've been backstage, what it's like.
It's a great atmosphere backstage there.
Here's to Pow and China in your hand. Push to fire, dreams are China in your hand.
From music studio to television studio, going back to the 80s, what was it like to be on Top of the Pops?
It was pretty surreal, I must admit, because I'd grown up on every Thursday night, whatever night of the week it was on when I was a kid. It was a big deal, that and the old grey whistle test.
Yeah,
always made sure that if you saw one thing on a telly, it was that every week. So yeah, it was a bit odd, I must admit, because you get there and you've got this vision of what you've got the vision of this huge studio with all these big stages and all these massive, and it's tiny, right? Studio's absolutely tiny, and you're all squeezed in there, and you think there's hundreds of people in the audience, and there's like about 20.
Yeah, you've been moved from stage to stage.
Yeah, right. and miraculously, no one's getting their head cut off by boom stands and cameras that are whizzing about all over the place.
Yeah, but
it was just being there with, I can't even remember who was on with me the first time, but it was. I do remember getting pulled over by the police on the way there for jumping the traffic lights.
No.
Yeah.
Did you say I'm in a rush?
Yeah, exactly. They asked me where I was going in a hurry, and I told them. I went, "Yes, sir." Really. So there you go.
Did they let you off, Nick?
No, they didn't let me off, but they didn't lock me up. At least I still got to Top of the Pops.
So did you mix with other acts backstage at Top of the Pops, or were you in your own dressing room and you just stayed there?
Depends who was on, really. There was a lot of pouting going on and a lot of standoffishness by certain acts. Other acts, you just end up in the bar just because when it was live, dangerously. That we all ended up in the bar sort of about 2 hours beforehand. So, I don't know how dangerous. That was dangerous, yeah. So that was great, and a lot of the acts did that. But there were certain acts who didn't talk to other certain acts. There was a bit of that going on.
Yeah,
it's quite hilarious to see it. You know.
Over there behind me is Nick Kershaw.
Did you get to meet any of your own idols through Top of the Pops?
I did. I remember meeting Sting for the first time at Top of the Pops. I think that was when we were doing the Do They Know It's Christmas was out, I think, and they wheeled loads of people in to mime it, and Sting was on there, and I think I was on stage with him miming it as well because I didn't sing on the Act record.
Now, why was that, Nick?
I just didn't get the phone call. I was kind of I was a bit of a new boy.
Yeah.
I must admit. I just don't think I was in Bob Geldof's File Effects.
Oh, so a year later, and you most definitely would have been, because you were at Live Aid, weren't you?
Yeah, well, a month later, I bumped into Bob in the airport, and he press ganged me into Live Aid. Yeah.
And then talking about that song, Sarah, when you swapped lyrics, that was an amazing moment on Top of the Pops.
Yes, we so nearly got pulled. It was only because we were number one that wasn't pulled. We were taken into the office and spoken because we were just at this point. It was our 6th week at number one, and we hated the fact that we weren't singing live at that point. They would be miming because every now and again they went through periods where people mimed rather than sung, and we could really sing. So I think we were at that point trying to let the audience know, we're not singing, and this is wrong. So that's when we decided.
Because it was all smoke and mirrors, wasn't it, for the audience? We thought everybody was singing live, and I only found out quite recently that it was mainly recorded, wasn't it, in Top of the Pops?
Yeah. And it's very small, that studio, isn't it? I've been in the Top of the Pops audience a few times.
Really is, isn't it? I was so shocked when I was there. It's not how it's presented to us on the TV. And
it's not.
I'd grown up watching Annie Lennox and Kate Bush and
singers
on Top of the Pops.
Lead me this way. Here are the Communards.
It just, I don't know how lucky it is that I don't know how we did it, because it really was pot luck in those days. I mean, you just did your best, and I don't know why it was and it constantly surprised you, like find yourself on Top of the Pops. It was like, Les and Graham and I were like, can you believe this? Can you believe this? It's happening. That thing remember we were in that awful hole in this rehearsal studio, going like, got an hour or two to rehearse after work.
I remember you telling us about the costumes that you got, or the jumpers. They were a bit of a last minute thing, weren't they, before you went on to Top of the Pops?
Yeah, that was it. It was Brian, actually, our publisher, who said, because it was so cold in there and they make 10 people look really like a crowd, that he said, just keep the jumpers on, and so we did. And
it became a massive thing, didn't
it? Because we had gold lame suits on, so we could have been ABC.
You could have been.
I mean, it was close call. Close call.
It was amazing.
What did you think of Top of the Pops?
Well, it was amazing.
Yeah.
It was amazing. Very stressful. Very, very stressful. Because you were there all day. You had one shot at it, and that was it.
Yeah.
It was either a good performance or that was it. But you've been brought up on Top of the Pops, so it was an unbelievable sensation to all of a sudden be on it.
Yeah.
I know. So that was fantastic.
We spoke to Carol Decker. She said backstage people kept themselves to themselves. Was that your experience?
Yep. The only time we used to meet up really was if you all went up to the bar afterwards.
But you had to arrange that. It wasn't.
No,
like
it wasn't arranged.
No,
You could go up at any time, but it's just that when the show was over, that's where a lot of people used to just head up to the bar to relax, have a drink, and then off you go, you know. And that's where, you know, you'd get like T-Rex and everybody up there getting pissed and things. And that's where we used to meet everybody.
Yeah.
And yeah, we knew everybody back in the day.
Here are the real thing on Top of the Pops.
Briefly talk to you about Top of the Pops, because you co-wrote Yellow Pole, didn't you, with Thin Lizzy's Phil Lynott? I mean, it must have been amazing. That was the theme tune for most of the 80s. So not only are you performing on the show, but you write the theme tune as well. What was the experience like for you?
Oh, you know what? It's never quite what you see on television. Yeah, I think your first impression when you get there is that it's much smaller. The studio is much smaller, and you tend to think it's this massive, great, big, you know, wonderful thing full of people. And there's maybe only 50 or 60 people in the audience, and they just get moved around from stage to stage and told to stand in front of the cameras and things.
Yes, I've been in the audience.
Oh, you've been there, have you? So you were being cattled around.
Yeah, with all the wires that are going around, all the cameras,
the smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
You've seen all the secrets, yeah. So no, it's great. It was always a great experience doing it. But I think the funny thing was that, and everyone I've spoken to, whoever did it, was exactly the same. That when you're on a TV show like that, you don't really know the other artists as people. You know who they are as artists. Yeah. And there's always that stiff, oh, hello, and nod as you pass each other in the corridor. But what everyone used to do without actually knowing it was walk about singing somebody else's song. and you could see someone else walking down the corridor and they'd be singing, dancing with tears. And you were doing the same thing, but with their song. So it was a really kind of awkward moment. But now, of course, we all know each other, and we see each other at the 80s things.
Tears in their eyes, and who wouldn't wonder with all this smoke around? Ultravox!
The Pops is such an amazing, iconic show. What was it like to be there on the first time? Can you remember who you were starring with? Did you chat to the other artists? What was it like?
First time I did it was with Coco. And in those days, they used to have an orchestra or a band in the studio and they would play for you. So it was really strange. And I have no idea who was on it that time. But when I won with Bucks Fizz, I left Coco at exactly the right time again. Because they were the woman who put Bucks Fizz together was just looking for artists to be in her band. And she came into the studio where I was working, answering the phones, typing their invoices, doing a few BVs for people. And she went, Cheryl, why are you here? What's happened? Well, you should be with Coco. And I went, oh, and I've left. And she went, do you want to be in Bucks Fizz? So when we did Top of the Pops, it was all miming by then. You just mimed into the stupid little stick in things. But you were kept apart. You had your own dressing areas, and so there was no camaraderie. Sometimes there was. If you went up to the BBC bar afterwards, you'd see people in the bar.
Yeah.
But really, there's more camaraderie now because we see them at festivals.
Bucks Fizz and making your mind up.
You gotta speed it up, and then you gotta slow it down.
Who were you on Top of the Pops with the first time? Do you remember?
Yeah, I actually do, because we just bought all this equipment. We didn't have any equipment, of course. So we bought these amps, and they were called rolling cubes. I think it's still doing. And they're about that big, it's pretty small, but they're quite potent. So we had like 2 each, me, Gary, and Martin as well, I think. And they were still in their cardboard boxes, from the shop. And the guy a friend of ours, we asked him to help us because he didn't have any roadies. He said, I'm not going out there. It's raining. And it's like, oh, you're joking. I'm not kidding. It was raining, so he stayed in the van. And we had to carry our own gear, and we walked in, and guess who was bloody rehearsing? Def Leppard. No, Iron Maiden. I beg your pardon.
Iron Maiden.
It was Iron Maiden. Yeah, that
was it Run to the Hills?
Watching us. Yeah, one of them. And they were watching us, Spandau Ballet, the hottest ticket at the time. Bringing their own amps in cardboard boxes.
Well,
back that,
Going back to Top of the Pops, you mentioned, I was in the audience and saw you perform The Harder I Try with Brother Beyond all that time ago.
Wow,
it's such a small studio to what people imagine, isn't it? And the camera crews are whizzing by, wires everywhere.
I was just explaining to a gentleman just then that when I first did Top of the Pops, you were there.
I was there.
And there was only 50 people, wasn't there?
I know.
50 audience members. That was the limit. And they'd pack them around the camera and sort of stage, and then they'd shove you to the next stage. And I'm right, I remember there's like 3 stages, wasn't there? That's it. And you just heard these people around. It's brilliant the way they did it and make it look like much bigger than it was.
What was that like for you? Because it's such an iconic show to actually be on there. What was that moment like?
Yeah, you kind of thought, I've done it, I've made it. I think when I was, a teenager or 14, 15, I used to see bands watching Top of the Pops thinking, I really want to be on that show. And in fact, I remember watching, I think it was Bauhaus, and went, I'm going to do that. I'm going to be on there. Sort of saying it to myself, almost like willing it to happen,
Oh, it's amazing.
Here they are, Brother Beyond with The Harder I Try.
To sit back and I thought, what was a memorable moment that you think was groundbreaking and life-changing? And I would say the day we were told that we were going to go on Top of the Pops and perform Body Talk. I would say, because because that meant that the audiences really loved your music, and that meant you were going to have this opportunity and your life will change forever. And I think that is groundbreaking, because for me personally, my life changed right after that.
When I spoke to you last about that moment, I think you did. Was there a time when they tried to get hold of you for Top of the Pops and you couldn't?
No, I was down Tottenham. I was down Tottenham High Road. I'd left home because the record was doing really well. It was on #1 in all these different charts and stuff. And I remember it was really hot, and I was just shopping and stuff like that, walking down the road. No mobiles then. I mean, they had the massive big thing, and I thought, I'm not going to have any of that. I'll never have a mobile. Here we are now. And I was walking down. I got to Durban Road where I lived, and I had someone rushing to me saying, Lee, where have you been? The phone is off the hook. They've been trying to get hold of you. And then I had the producers and everyone calling me, and my record company was saying, where are you? And I was the one that lived all the way at the end, all the way. So every time we dropped Ashley off or Errol off, they got in home quicker than I did. So I was the last one. So they were saying, we need it, we don't know if we're going to get it, we may be getting it. I said, well, are we going to do it or not? Everybody was going crazy. And then I said, well, do we have it or not? Yes, I think we have it. I said, okay, that was Ellis Elias, one of the directors. That's how we would go. I think we've got it. I don't think we've got it. And then it went crazy. It was like, what are you going to wear? What's going to be the image? And luckily, I was sharing a house with a fashion designer, friend of mine, and another schoolmate. So it was like Tom Brown's School Days. It was very, very funny. And he had a room of all his clothes and stuff, so I was always nicking things, or he was giving me stuff to wear. And we went to High Street Kensington Market, which is one of my favorite places at the time. Catherine Hamlet, she used to be there. You had Hyper, I think, across the road. And a lot of designers, even Vivienne Westwood had little, stalls and stuff in there. So you got a lot of original stuff. So I think half of the stuff we got from there, and he designed some bits, and the thing I wore, which was a soiree, they called it a soiree, which I had my legs out, and it was kind of like, I looked like Sabu from Arabian Nights or something like that. It was like, we always had a theme. Everything was a theme, at that time.
Is it just an illusion? No, it really is imagination.
What was your first Top of the Pops like?
Oh, that was nerve-wracking. That was really nerve-wracking because Top of the Pops is like the it show.
Yeah.
To be on. You know, you've got all the internationals flying in to do that show. So yeah, that was another one that was like, oh my goodness, we're on Top of the Pops. But like I said, you know, we had a taste of Pebble Mill and doing the PA. So it was like, yeah, we're on our journey now. So it was so cool.
A brilliant video. Okay, now this next band are from Romford. So Romford, hello. Here are your boys and girls. 5-star and can't wait another minute.
I did the costumes. I mean, there was only one sort of embarrassing moment, which was kind of hidden. You know, we kind of got away with it, but it was there was a song that was called "If You Can't Stand the Heat," and I made these costumes out of chamois leather and ropes and sort of all things to do with the kitchen, because the line was "If you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen." And I made like Cheryl a pair of a skirt out of oven gloves, and you know, we were anyway. It was all kind of, you'll see it online if anyone's interested. It's called "Can't Stand the Heat," and we've been wearing these, and we've been flying in and out to promote and stuff. And they were getting a little bit warm because they were only literally tied together with a few stitches. And there was this one movement I had to do with Bobby on "Can't Stand the Heat," which was like a bit of a, you know, and this bit came off.
Oh no!
And it wasn't a thing you could really wear much of a bra with.
No.
It was like, you know, it was like, yeah, bit commando up on the upper decks. And so it was fortunately right at the end of a live Top of the Pops. And I sort of suddenly hugged Bobby while I was trying to hold it up. And, you know, literally at the end, thank God it was the end, because if it happened at the beginning, I'd have been in real trouble. So we kind of got around it. But it was literally, you know, it could have been all there, all bare.
On sound after 5 weeks for Human League, it's Bucks Fizz and the land of make-believe.